Thank you all for being with us today for our March Bayou Culture Gathering. We're very happy to have all of you here with us today. First, I'd like to introduce our management team to all of you. There's myself, I'm the executive director of the South Louisiana Wetlands Discovery Center. Dr. Rachel Doherty is with us. She represents the Center for Louisiana Studies at ULL and also the Louisiana Folklore Society. We have with us Maria Zarang, who is with the Louisiana Folklife Program and the Louisiana Division of the Arts, and Dr. Gary LaFleur, who is over at the Center for Bayou Studies at Nicholls State University, and then the staff of the BCC, Maida Owens, who is our Senior Program Consultant, and Dr. Shauna Walton, who is our Project Coordinator. This is a place where we explain why do we get together once a month and why do we have these presentations and share this information. And it's the reasoning behind including culture in planning and the reason why those things are so important. And largely it goes with our theme for this year. And it's, restoring human connection because culture is such a source of social cohesion. This picture is of Charlene Bro at the demonstration tent over at Rougarou Fest in the Folklife Village, demonstrating how to make beignets and how she learned that recipe from her grandmother when her grandmother was cooking beignets to give to the men for breakfast to go out to work in the fields in the morning. So we want to give a big shout out to all of our funders for this program, the National Endowment for the Arts, MJ Sindler Family Fund for Culture and Media. We also would like to thank the Louisiana Office of Cultural Development through the Division of the Arts and the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. I'd now like to pass this over to Maria Zarang to talk a little bit about this month's Artist Spotlight. Maria?
All right. For the artist spotlights, I've been highlighting our participants in our Passing It On program, which is kind of like our apprenticeship program in Louisiana. And I have been having a blast. I've been trying to attend mostly all of them. And so these were the last two that happened that last weekend in February. And the first picture is Lynn Wynn, who is a calligrapher. And this was a Passing It On workshop that was supported by the Gulf Coast Asian Arts and Culture Organization. Um, and they had programming all weekend of that last weekend in February in Marrero, West Wego, and New Orleans. They had a demonstration, which is that picture there at the West Wego Farmers Market. And that was a demonstration of Vietnamese calligraphy, which is called Tu Phop Viet. And so they use a variety of scripts. They use Chinese characters, Vietnamese derived characters, and also the Latin-based Vietnamese alphabet. And so they use all three of those scripts in their tradition. And usually calligraphers, they they write poems, banners, signage. And so Lynn, she learned from her dad. She also traveled to Vietnam to learn more there. And she was doing a demo at the farmer's market, and it was just a lot of fun. They had a long line. She was also part of a panel on that Sunday called Crafting Heritage about Vietnamese traditions. And there was a ceramicist there from Xavier, Christian Din. There was a silk and lacquer painter, Fong Wei, and it was just and then Lynn, of course, and it was a wonderful conversation with three different perspectives of people from Vietnam or first and second generation immigrants in America, and it was just really cool. So that was that one, and then the next picture is the Pasonki workshops that are being held at the Labousse Library in Rapides Parish. And this was a workshop with the Czech Heritage Association. Frida Tuma led the workshop. She's pictured there. And she's been doing this for like 20 years. She's taught many people in the Labousse area where there's a kind of a large Czech population. And if you don't know what Pasanki is, it's an Eastern European tradition where wax is applied to an egg with an instrument that they call a kitska. And so it's done in layers, and you start with the lighter colors and then you add darker colors. And the wax is kind of used as like the ink, to make the design. It's really beautiful. Um, I should have put a picture of that. But anyway, the next one is March 28th. So next weekend, I'll be at that one at the Rapides Parish Library in Labousse in Pineville, Louisiana. And then the one after that is April 10th. So check out the Folk Life newsletter for more information about those. All right, that's it.
Do you have to register for those classes or you just show up?
For these, I think you do have to register. But all of these, if they're more workshops and kind of open, they're free and open to the public. And some of them you have to register, some of them you don't. I think these you have to register, and I'll put that in the Folk Life newsletter next week.
Okay,
Uh, yeah,
excellent. What a great activity to do leading up to Easter as well.
yeah,
So that's very cool and appropriate. As you were talking about that, and as our discussion was a little bit earlier, the wheels are turning about a passing it on workshop on how to ball seafood. So that might be a good activity
yeah.
to learn how to do that. So thank you so much for that, Maria. So this is what today's agenda looks like. In a minute, we're going to hear from Miss Tina Shelvin Bingham. We're going to allow some time to ask her a few questions. We'll ask her about our question that we've been asking all of our presenters about reclaiming the human connection. Then we'll give you all some working group updates. We'll have some announcements, and then we'll continue our informal discussion from 12 to 1:30 with Tina. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce all of you to my new friend, Tina Shelvin Bingham, who is the executive director of the McComb-Veazey Neighborhood Coterie. And she's going to present to us designing human connection, culture, coteries, and the future of community. And I would also like to give a big congratulations to her for welcoming a beautiful little baby boy into her family yesterday. So cheers to Liam as we move forward in this presentation. Thank you so much for being with us today, Tina.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, cheers to Liam. Yeah, we are so excited for Liam. I'm very excited for Liam. He is not of me, but he is me. So so we're very excited. And thank you all so much for, just welcoming me here today to this space, to be able to share with you all a little bit about what I've been working on in Macomb and the things that I've learned here in McComb-Veazey that have really helped us make connections with our community and help to drive a lot of the work that's currently happening in our community forward. So good afternoon, everyone. And of course, yes, thank you to baby Liam, but happy first day of spring, y'all. We made it. Okay. That little lion groundhog told us that we were still gonna be in winter, right? But we should have been listening to Nutri-Rats the whole time. I'm just saying. Like we got to keep it local. You got to listen to the residents and let the residents lead. And the neutral would have told us better, right? But thank y'all so much for being here and welcoming me. But let's go ahead and get started. I want to start with a question for you guys, right? So, when was the last time that you really knew your neighbor? And I want you to really think about this, right? Like actually think about it for a second. Not just the neighbor that you wave at, but somebody that you actually know, right? Someone that you can call, someone who would notice if you were missing, right? If you weren't there, that person would definitely call 911. Think about that person, right? I'll pause for a little bit, let y'all think about it. You know what? No, actually, Miss Maida, can you drop in the chat, please? Like, tell me how connected you feel currently to your neighborhood right now in the chat. Tell me what you think. Let me pull up my chat so I can see y'all chatting. One thing, we're going to pause a little bit now. This is a participatory. This is the human connection, and we have to be intentional about connecting across these virtual spaces. So y'all tell me what is something that keeps you connected to your neighborhood right now? How do you feel? Okay. You feel moderately well. Okay. Okay. Somewhat connected. Okay. Dog walking. Okay. Yes, love that. Awesome. Awesome. Somewhat. Okay. Been here for 10 years and no one in this neighborhood wants to be connected. Yep. Yep. Last neighborhood, very connected, right? So we have people that were transient. You see, this is a wide range of reactions, and I love this, right? Because this is real. This is what's actually happening here currently in our neighborhoods. And for a lot of us, some of us in the chat, some of us who are at home, it's been like this for a while, right? We have not been feeling connected to a lot of our neighbors in our community. And we want to try to figure out how to solve that, right? So I'm going to tell you what I did to do that. Let's at least start solving it. I grew up in a time where community wasn't something that you just had to create. It was something that just naturally existed. People sat on their porches. I remember Mr. Bernard sitting there cutting his grass and everybody sitting down drinking lemonade, tea, whatever the beverage was at the time, but everybody hanging on the porch. You didn't have to call ahead, you just showed up. Sometimes the doors weren't even locked, right? Somebody's mama or their auntie had some food for you. The kids never went hungry. Somebody's uncle was always watching out for you, no matter whether you belonged to them or not. You always knew who lived down the street. You always knew where to go when something went wrong. And sometimes your parents even know you did something wrong before your foot even hit the porch in the evening. That is the village, right? That is the village that we're looking to rebuild. And then somewhere along the way, of course, all of this shifted, right? Everything shifted, everything changed, and it exponentially changed after COVID and after the pandemic. Now we just live in neighborhoods. As you all mentioned, some of you moved into new neighborhoods. You've come from old neighborhoods where the connection felt different, right? And then you move into these new neighborhoods within the last 10 or so years, and things feel drastically different, right? We live in neighborhoods where we don't really know each other. Nobody's really sitting on their porches anymore. And when we scroll, we're not just scrolling up the street, we're not doing the pimp scroll, right? We're scrolling effortlessly. We're just endlessly scrolling on reels and photos and the newest dance trends and whatever's on our timelines, right? We're just scrolling through life. And right, I mean, honestly, we're scrolling right past each other, honestly. And for some of y'all, because y'all just put it in the chat, right? It didn't start by, just instantly overnight, right? That made me really start asking myself a question like, did we actually lose community? Because I see all the people that I know, all the people that I grew up with. I know these people, but we don't really connect with each other like we used to. So what I realized was that we didn't really lose community, right? We just lost the conditions that created community. We lost the spaces where connection naturally happened, like the front porch, like a shared meal, like the everyday interactions that build trust over time. We used to have built-in moments of connection. The walk into the store, waving at your neighbors, checking in, sitting outside in the evenings, just enjoying a cool breeze, walking to church, going to mass on Sundays, right? Like all of those things were natural. They happened, running into each other accidentally at the grocery store. I don't know how many times I can't go to the grocery store without having a random conversation. I'm gonna be in there for a couple of hours, right? So now everything is scheduled, right? And sometimes it's even avoided. Sometimes you don't even see people. And that's the connection that we're trying to connect. But we didn't lose the connection. We just lost the opportunity to connect because everything now is just so convenient, right? So here's our next chat, right? I want y'all to drop in the chat really quickly and tell me what's something that we used to do that brought people together that we don't do as much anymore. So what is something that we all used to do that brought everybody together in a big way that we don't do as much anymore? Drop that in the chat for me, guys. Block parties, yeah. Drives to visit friends. Yes, yes. Just sitting around being bored. I love it. Yes. Awesome, awesome. Trick or treating. Yes, and I miss that, man. When I first moved to McComb-Veazey, that was one of the things that I loved the most is that random kids would just show up at my house and get candy, and it made me want to have candy. Yes, family cookouts, awesome. See, exactly. This is exactly what we lost, guys. Like the opportunity for us to connect with these playing games outside, with the family cookouts, with the block parties, and just being in community with each other. These are the things and the connections that we're losing. And they're not just connections, but they're moments that made the connections possible, right? And we replace that with convenience and not a real connection. So thank you all so much. Hanging out with childhood friends, biking. Oh my goodness, we did a bike what you call it, a bike patrol, I forgot what it's called, but we did one of those and the community really loved it. Everybody was sitting on their porch. It was an amazing opportunity to engage with the community. So let's talk about the reality of things, right? So today we have more tools than ever to connect. We got cell phones, we got laptops, we got faxes. They don't do pages anymore, but they still exist, right? But yet we're still very disconnected. We all live closer together, but we still don't know each other. And then that tells me something really important, right? That proximity, being close to someone, being near someone, it does not create community, but that intentional connection and the opportunity for the connection does create community. So the question becomes, how do we get back to being with each other? How do we get back to each other? How do I pull myself closer to you, right? And the answer isn't new. We all know it. It's in the name of this organization, the Bayou Culture Collaborative. It's our culture. That is the connector, guys. Culture has always been how we connected. We connect through food, we connect through music, we connect through storytelling, we connect through gathering at those crawfish balls, at those block parties, at the visiting with the family. These are all great connections, right? So here's our next chat moment, okay? In the chat, what does culture mean to you? Give you a little while for you to tell me, what does culture mean to you? And it can look different for everyone. Culture can be your food, it can be your music, it can be traditions. Like, what does culture look like to you? Connections to my ancestors. Awesome. Values, love that, love that. Ways of life, a worldview. Awesome, awesome. You see, that's it, guys. Tangible, intangible things. Yes, things from visual arts to people. Yes, belief systems. It makes up so much. People always think culture is one thing that you have to be defined as either Cajun or Creole, but there's so much more that goes into what makes our culture what it is, right? And what you all are saying is exactly right. That is the culture. It's the family, it's the language, it's the customs, it's those little traditions that we sometimes take for granted, like we mentioned earlier, but those things that'll carry forward and then we can carry forward as a community and as a culture. But that's how we learn to recognize each other, is through the culture and how we connect with each other. It may be at a French table, it may be over a plate of food, or it may be at a crawfish ball. It might even be just walking around, just waving and looking at some of these French signs in the neighborhoods and just learning about, the culture and the community. It always looks something a little bit different. So I want you guys also to think about the last time that you were in a real gathering, not an event that you had to go to for work or something that you had to attend because of something else, right? But I want you to really think about something where you didn't want to leave, a place where you didn't want to leave, right? Where the music was playing, the vibes were vibing, the food and the drinks were being passed around, and everybody was enjoying the conversations. Everything was flowing, and everything just overlapped. Before you knew it, time just stood still almost, right? It just stretched so much that you didn't even realize that you'd been sitting there for 2 or 3 hours having a great conversation with your auntie, right? So think about that time, right? Think about that time when you were frozen in time and really gathering and enjoying a real connection with people. Yes. And that, guys, that is what culture, when we experience those things, when we have those conversations, those in-depth conversations with our family and our friends and staying connected with people, that is an example of our culture at work, right? When you can be doing something so effortlessly that you don't even realize that you're actually enjoying yourself. You're actually slowing down, you're pacing, you're resting, right? That is our culture doing this work. Culture creates a shared experience, and shared experiences are where connections actually begin. Culture is the original social network. So before there was a Facebook, before there was an Instagram, a MySpace, or whatever those Twitter, X, whatever they want to call those things, culture and how we connected with our neighbors and the people in our community, it was the original social network. We knew how to connect with each other and how to really drive things forward. So what's the formula, right? Everybody wants to know, how do you do it? It's really easy, guys. It's really easy. Experience builds on trust, right? Trust builds on relationships. Relationships help to build the community. And if we're not creating those experiences, we can't expect for that community to actually exist. We have to be able to link all of these things together, the experiences, the trust, and the relationships. So I want to do something else. We're going to do another chat. Thank you, Ms. Maida, for staying on top of it. The next question is, what's one place or a moment where you felt real community? What is one place or a moment where you felt real community? That could be on your front porch. That could be at church, a festival, a family gathering. Just give us a short word or some short phrases. Just let us know where was the one place that you felt real community. Let's see, Mardi Gras Day in New Orleans. Oh, I love it. Family reunion. Awesome, awesome. Tribal social. Yes, yes. French table. Well, I love a good French table. I don't know how to speak French, but I do love being in the circle. Oh, great, guys. This is awesome. Awesome. Good conversation with family and friends. Thank y'all so much. A light night in Baton Rouge. Oh, I love that. A few steps from my door. Yes. And then going to the arts festival. Oh, all amazing, guys. This is really awesome. Like that right here, this right here, which y'all are putting in the chat, kids, soccer games, basketballs, hanging out with your grandmother, your uncle playing music. That that right there, that's what we are trying to rebuild in our community, right? The things that connect people, the things that intentionally bring everybody together. That is awesome. We're not just trying to build programs. We're not bringing programming in, right? We're not trying to do another meeting, right? We want to invoke that feeling of togetherness, that feeling of community, that feeling of connection to one another. So how did we did that? What does that look like in actual design, right? How do you design for connection? In McComb-Veazey, our coterie actually has been exploring what that looks like through what we call the cultural revitalization model. And if you like, because I know coterie is new to some people and it's not new to others, but Ms. Maida is going to drop in there a link so you guys can learn more about Lafayette Consolidated Government's coterie program. And you can find out about all of the great things that not just what McComb-Veazey is doing, but what all 5 of the neighborhood coteries are doing in the community. But we're going to talk about what McComb did to activate our people in the community as well. So our model was built on a few core ideas. Relationships come first. Culture is always centered, and our residents will need to lead, right? As I mentioned in my little joke earlier, the Nutra needed to lead, right? When it came time for us to figure out if it was time for winter to end, right? This is an opportunity for our residents, for you, people who live in your community, to step in to those opportunities to build those intentional connections. And we also remember in our model that responsibility is shared. It's not the responsibility of one person. Just because I'm the executive director of the McComb-Veazey CDC doesn't mean that it's my sole responsibility to carry the message to everyone in the community. We all share this responsibility of making sure that everyone feels included, everyone feels like they belong to this space. But I do want to also be clear, okay, that none of the things that we did in McComb-Veazey, none of the things that you all would do in your community will be built overnight. Nothing is going to happen with a snap of the finger, okay? We wish it could. I wish I had an easy button. I would push it for everybody, okay? Easy, 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 easy. Everybody get it easy, like Oprah, right? You get an easy button. But we had to be intentional, right? About the spaces that we were creating and where people could show up, not just one time, but we wanted people to show up more than once. We want people to keep on coming back, and where they could feel like they weren't just being an observer. They weren't just in a room to hear a story or hear people talk to them, but that they can actually participate, right? And that they can also potentially see themselves leading this initiative or leading this endeavor or whatever it is, right? We wanted to create a space where people can see that matriculation and that growth and graduation within themselves. And because community doesn't form in one meeting, it forms in repetition. You have to keep on doing it. You have to keep on throwing those events. You have to keep on trying to create those intentional cultural connections in the community to bring people in so that we can heal that human connection. And then we had to shift the way we think too about how we engage in our community. It's not about getting people in the room, right? It's actually about making sure that they want to come back. Getting people in the room is, I think, the easiest part, right? Is how do we retain that talent? How do we retain that connection and make sure that people feel like they have a place here, right? So here's our next chat feature, right? Drop one word in the comment. I'm sorry, one word in the chat that makes you want to, what makes you want to come back to a space, right? What makes you say, you know what, I'm going back to the McComb-Veazey Community House because of blank, right? I'm going to go back to that festival because they made me feel XYZ. What is that thing? What is that one thing that will make you want to come back to a space constantly? I know for me, I mean, I like a good atmosphere, right? So anything with the outdoor space, somewhere I can sit, where I feel like I'm in community with people and I can have random conversations. I don't know about y'all, but I love a random conversation. So I love when random people just come and have a conversation with me about just any topic. You know, I was in the buffet the other day and just randomly we were watching the news and a guy was like, man, it's crazy what they're doing over there in Iran. Now, did I want to talk about the war while I was eating my food? Absolutely not. But it was a great opportunity to connect with someone that I would have never had a connection with had we not bonded over looking at the news, right? Oh, this is awesome, guys. I see what y'all friendly folks. I love it. Feeling comfortable, kid friendly. Yes, yes. Feeling connected to the people that are there, an equitable space. Thank you, Maria. Yes, yes. Inclusion, feeling belong. Yes. Oh, awesome. Y'all all, I mean, y'all are all on the same vein, a good welcoming space. Somebody, you know what, at McComb, when you come to the community house, and I hope that y'all all come to one of our events and just stop by and come and hang out with me, because we always want you to know that you're family. You don't have to be of this neighborhood. You don't have to look like us. You don't have to smell like us. You don't have to do nothing like us. But if you're here and you're in this space, you're meant to be here, and we want you here. And we're going to always make sure that you know that you are welcome here and will always be welcome here. So this is exactly, guys, y'all are doing it. Y'all are doing it. This is exactly what we need to design for, that feeling, right? How do we connect with people? How do we make sure that everyone feels included and feels like they belong in this space? So I remember back when we first started, it was one of our early gatherings. And this picture was actually a business gathering. We were asking people what they wanted to do on Simcoe. Um, but people showed up but they weren't really there yet, right? Like they were in the room, but you didn't know if they wanted to engage or not. And you can actually feel it in the room, right? People were quiet. They were sitting with folks that they already knew, in little people puddles. And they were just, observing, trying to figure out what this was and sometimes why they were even in the room, all honesty. Like what they called me, what did Tina call me here for? Like, why did she give me this flyer, right? And then something automatically shifted, right? Somebody connected with somebody. They went to school with somebody. They started telling stories. Somebody corrected somebody's story. Everybody started laughing about the correction. It was just amazing, right? And then more people got engaged in the conversation and wanted to know, especially when those younger generations started leaning in. That was amazing to even see that, right? And the conversations really start to flow. Like I said, they're moving all across the room and everybody is engaging and really enjoying the space. Then before you realize it, people stayed longer than they expected, right? Like we try to keep our meetings, clear and concise and, to a really defined time period. But sometimes we realize that an hour and a half isn't enough to have the conversations that we want to have and make the connections that we want to make in our community. So sometimes our meetings may turn into a 3 or 4 hour jam session. We didn't realize that we were going to be here till 9:30 at night, but we enjoyed the conversation and we enjoyed the company, right? So people will stay longer if they feel connected. And in that moment, it really hit me when I saw that people were staying longer and not complaining about sitting in these chairs. Because listen, Not all chairs are made the same, right? And some chairs are 20-minute chairs and some chairs are 2-hour chairs. But the chairs that we have are definitely not hour-long chairs. But when people are still sitting in those metal chairs and uncomfortable and stepping out of their comfort zone and wanting to be in this space to continue to build relationships, y'all, it's not just about hosting a meeting anymore, right? This is the actual work. This is our culture. This is our connections also just doing what they naturally do, right? And helping us rebuild relationships in the community. And then I started understanding, right? It's not about programming. We can do a concert series. We can do, a youth entrepreneurship course. It's not about the connections. It's not about the programming. It's really just about the connections and how we all connect with each other. So connections really show up in a lot of real ways, right? Like gatherings at the community house. We've hosted docu-series here. We've had a lot of different community meetings and things that happen here. It also happens, those connections happen with storytelling moments. So like I'm telling you all a story about my community now, but then also opportunities to just hear other stories about how awesome and amazing the School of Paul Bro was in our community and how it taught so many African-American students within our community. I'll tell them the story about Holy Rosary Institute and how they moved to our community. All of those storytelling moments are important and they connect with people across generations. Neighborhood-led conversations, cultural events, right? Like our Party Girl event or like our homecoming event, where you can come and actually listen to Zydeco music. You can dance, you can engage with different artisans and local merchants and just see what's happening, what people are doing in the community. These are all real ways of connecting. These aren't just activities. These are connection points. These are opportunities that bring people in. And hopefully that we get to keep them in, right? So here's the shift, right? That connection is not a byproduct of the work. It's not, right? It is the work. The connection is the work. It's not oh, we just so happened to be connected after we did a thing. No, you did a thing, and that's why we are connected. Because if we don't design for connection, we will continue to design for isolation, right? And a disconnected community is a fragile community. And we want our community strong. The future of community has to be intentional, it has to be cultural, and it has to be relational. It can't assume connection will happen, but we have to build for it, right? This is not a situation where if you build it, they will come. They not coming, y'all. They not coming, right? But if we build intentionally for connections and be thought within our processes. So I'll use the community house as an example. When we were working with the students to design this, the students came up with 3 different designs, okay? All different price points, of course, different amenities, different features, but the community picked the most expensive one, right? And we were like, oh man, we only had $20,000. Now we got to figure out how to pay for this expensive building, right? Like, but this is what the community wanted. So when we ask people, why did you pick that one? Like, why did you pick the most expensive one? They weren't looking at it as far as the most expensive one. They looked at it as an opportunity for people to be able to come and sit on the porch. They looked at it as an opportunity for us to be able to build out the courtyard between the community house and the filling station so that people can come and just hang out, listen to music, just be, right? So now the house is a hotspot. We're a Wi-Fi hotspot for the community. And people, whenever they see my car now, they just pull up. They just come and talk, right? It's an opportunity for connection. And the community chose that without even realizing that that's what they were choosing. They wanted to be connected with each other. They wanted to be able to hang out with each other. They wanted to be able to do it. So if we build for the connection, we'll always be able to bring the community along as well. So this is my last story, guys. There's always going to be people on the edge, right? There's going to be people on the edge of our community. The ones who show up, but the ones that aren't sure if they belong yet, right? Like they're not exactly sure where their place is. There's going to be ones that want to stay quiet, they don't want to talk. There's also going to be the ones that's going to be watching, waiting, asking themselves, is there a space for me? How do we do these things? How can I insert myself into this work or be of assistance to this work, right? And I've seen what happens when the shift actually does happen, when people learn your name, right? When people invite you into a conversation, don't leave you out. When people make you feel like you're not just present anymore, but you also feel included in the conversation and that you're valued in this space, that is when that shift really starts to happen. And that's the moment where everything changes, right? Because people don't just need development, they need to know that they belong somewhere and that this development was developed on their behalf, right? So creating those spaces and creating those designs where people feel connected and that they feel like they belong are very important in our communities. And before I close, one last chat. Come on, Miss Maida. What does belonging feel like to you? Drop that in the chat, guys. Tell me, what does belonging feel like to you? Home, yes. A warm hug. Come on, give me a hug, Kim. Awesome. Yes. Feeling heard. Awesome. Like you're a part of something. Yes. Yes. I love that, guys. Thank y'all so much for all of this. Yes. Happiness, trusted. Oh, being heard. I love it. Yes. That's what people are looking for, y'all. People want to be happy. They want to feel trusted. They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like it's a warm hug. Like I said, I hug everybody that come in the community house. Come on, guys, I'm here for it, right? Like that is how we create a sense of belonging. And it's something that we have to build. We can't just expect it to automatically exist. We have to be intentional about building a space, but then also making sure our space feels welcoming, that people feel loved, that they feel like even if we didn't touch you physically, that you feel like you have been hugged and that someone loves and cares about you and that you're included in this space. And the truth is, honestly, guys, every single one of us is shaping the kind of community that we're living. We we do that by how we show up, how we speak to people, who we speak to, what we create space for in our communities. Our community is where you are known, right? It's where you are needed and it's where you belong. And if we want to, if we want to reclaim human connection, we have to start building intentional spaces, right? Where people can actually find each other again. And then everything that you all put in the chat today, all of those comments, those aren't just memories, guys. Those are the clues. Those are the clues. Those are those little nuggets, right? Of how we can build those connections and how we can rebuild the community. These are clues for how we rebuild community together, okay? And I'm very excited to be able to share this with you guys. And I hope that you all take the tools that you all put in the chat, all the things that I talked about and examples that I use from McComb-Veazey to help us really rebuild community, not just in McComb-Veazey, not just in Lafayette, but across our state and across our country. So thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation and letting me ramble on about community. And I'll open it up for some questions. Oh yeah, if you want to connect with me, here's my information.
Thank you so much, Tina. We really appreciate that. I am very thankful that you are doing the work that you are doing because after listening to you talk, you were built for this kind of work. So thank you for
Yeah,
doing this work and sharing it with us, and giving us a few pointers on how we can do that too. I really appreciate that.
thank you.
We do have time for a few questions. I'll start the questions off, but if you can raise your hand virtually so that way we can see you in the lineup and we can call on you. I guess the as you were discussing this, one of the things that I thought of as a potential challenge to making this happen is how do you navigate um strong differences? How do you navigate politics? How do you do you in these meetings and when you pull all these people in the neighborhood together who may be of varying beliefs and mindsets, when they're all in the room, do you say like, okay, guys, we're here to look at making the neighborhood better. If you have political views, keep them out of this room. Do you welcome those discussions? Do you talk about the Iraq War and how you feel about it? And how do you navigate that part to build community and make everybody feel welcome when you look outside your door and it's so divisive?
Yes. Yes. So that's actually a really good question. So for me, I tell people, I'm not a politician, right? But I consider myself a social politician. There's certain things that we have to navigate in social settings and in community settings that may not impact like us directly. It may be something that our councilman, our state representative, or somebody has to deal with. But it also, what I like to do is at least when we do have, because we often have those kind of mixed bag of people where there are those elected folks, and then there are the selected folks, and then there's just the people that just nominated themselves to be in the room that want to be able to speak and advocate for things. So in those instances, honestly, what I do is I try to create a safe space for everyone to be able to contribute, right? Not all conversations need to be discussed with the larger group, right? So we try to create spaces where you may be able to take that councilman off to the side, or you may be able to go and talk to the police officers off to the side. So you don't have to discuss this with the larger group, even though it may be an issue or a topic, but it may be something that we need to discuss in more detail at a later date, right? But I like to
Mm.
try to keep people focused on what we're here for and why we're here and keeping the agenda moving forward in that way. And then when we can curb some of those things, because sometimes we do get some heated. I was in a meeting this week that was, whew, yeah, they were kind of rowdy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Lord, how do we control that, right? But I think the folks that were facilitating the group really held it, and the community really held their space as well, because there was different views and opinions. You know, you're dealing with poor, you're dealing with affluent, you're dealing with elected officials. How do we find a common ground? And I think that's going to
Mhm.
be the important part, is that when we all come in, knowing that we're here to be solutions oriented and not necessarily trying to poke holes in everything. We can poke holes in everything till we blue in the sky, right? We can talk about the
Mhm.
war. We can talk about how horrible of a person our president is and how our Congress isn't doing what they need to do. We can talk about all those things. Or we can talk about what the solution is on the back end. What do we want the answer to be?
Sure.
And then we're going to work
Yeah.
our way back from that to figure out how we actually do the steps to get us to
Yeah.
the outcome that we want.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. We have two questions in the chat that I'll ask, and then I encourage everybody to stick around for the informal part of the presentation where we can talk to Tina a little bit more. So, Miss Marilyn said, "Is the PowerPoint available? She'd love to be able to reread and think about it. It was very powerful and important." So, and oh, Sarah responded, the recording's available on the Louisiana Folklore Society YouTube in a few days, but is there a way that we can get your slides over to Miss Marilyn, Tina?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll share it with you guys afterwards, and you can get
Okay.
it to Ms. Marilyn.
Sounds great. Okay. And then another question from Francesca. What advice would you give to a community that previously received strong support from local government, but has lost that support under a new administration, affecting both its capacity and willingness to engage and come together?
Oh, my goodness. Let me tell you, I have survived and still working on surviving about 5 administrations here in Lafayette. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy. And
Mm,
it doesn't get easy, right? But one of the things that I could recommend too is that, because every, I think the easiest way to say is that money flows, right? Money flows no matter what. And sometimes people feel like, certain administrations get in place, they send money this way, they send money that way. But I think for communities that are trying to rebuild those connections and who are struggling a little bit on the new administrations, is to find ways that they can connect their mission to the mission of the administration, right? So if the administration is highly focused on revitalization, they're worrying about cleaning up the streets, they're worried about potholes on the street, find a way to connect your organization's mission to the administration's mission, and then educate them on the data, right? Like you need to, and I'm going to say data-driven solutions, okay? Data-driven solutions, especially when you're dealing with local government. Sometimes you have to educate them because sometimes they don't have all the data. They don't have all the information. A lot of times decisions are made in vacuums, and that's unfortunate, but it does happen, right? So arming yourself as a community with the data of your community and how impactful this project, this program, this effort would be in your community, and being able to communicate that readily to the administration will definitely help to heal some of those wounds and help to build capacity. And then hopefully eventually you'll educate not just the administration, but the staff underneath them of what your program is and how you can continue to move that forward. You have to start building allies, not just in the administration, but in the local government as well.
Thank you very much for that, Tina. I appreciate the question and that response. Um, let me ask you the question that we ask all of our presenters, and that is, I mean, your whole presentation kind of answered this question. This was probably the best presentation to for our theme for this year. Um, but expound a little bit on a strategy that we can use to reclaim human connection. I mean, it seems like you know, develop a coterie. But I mean, is there something a little bit more specific maybe that you can share with us for this?
Well, yeah, I think, it's about being intentional. A lot of what I did with the McComb-Veazey Coterie initially when I started working with the Coterie is because I was curious about the culture and the history of my own family in this neighborhood, right? So it intentionally made me want to start like asking questions, talking to my grandmother, talking to this person, find that person, finding a random cousin, right? Like it's to the point to this day, I've talked to people so much in the neighborhood I still find random cousins when I walk on the street, right? And be like, oh, I didn't know that my cousin lived on the street. Thank you, Daddy. You know, thank you for telling me that. So I think, especially for me, it was always being intentional, right? And being
Mm,
intentional about why I was doing what I was doing, why we were out in the community, and why it was important for them to plug into what's happening in this community, and empowering people to recognize their voice and their power in certain situations and in certain dynamics was something that was a driver for me, but just starting as something that I wanted to learn about my family's history. And it has basically morphed into how do we fight quality of life? Like, how do we get, decent housing in the community? How do we get better economic opportunities so that people in our community can not only leave the community for jobs, but they can walk to the job. They can see those economic prosperity opportunities. I think it's being intentional about listening, also actively listening to people, not just listening to respond, not just listening to hand them a pamphlet, right? But actively listening to what people's needs are. I did a workshop, and I think Francesca was in that workshop last year where we talked about if it's rats, right? Like if it's rats. If they're not complaining, like you might see a building and be like, oh, that building is an eyesore. Oh my God, the community hates it. But that's not what they worried about. They worried about the rats in the building. So if you can treat the rats in the building, then you'll be more likely to get people to come in, right? And build those connections with you. So being intentional about actively listening and actively, when you listen, being intentional about what you put in place and how you move forward, even how you speak to people about what people are concerned about in the community, you have to lead with intent and you have to do it strategically as well.
mm, mm. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We have a little bit of housekeeping stuff, and we do hope that everybody will stick around. We're going to continue the conversation with Tina. So this is the work group schedules. So if you're interested in any of these, the French language preservation group, protecting collections, culture and coastal planning, or preparing receiving communities. Please just email us, message us on Facebook, and we can get more information to you about how you can join any of those meetings. We hope that you will join us for our next gathering, which is going to be on Friday, April 24th, again at noon with Dr. Diane Austin. She will be talking to us about restoration justice, identifying and addressing cultural harm. Diane had to testify on the BP oil spill and how the oil spill impacted culture and how to put a price on that when they were determining the fines that need to be paid. So if that is a topic that's of interest to you, we hope that you'll join us for that. We also have a program coming up over here at the Bayou Terrebonne Waterlife Museum, Louisiana Lit. We will be talking to Charles Dean Domingue, who has written Temple of the Sun in Search of the Lost Caribbean Ghost. So we hope to have folks join us for that discussion, and we hope that you will all stick around with us. That concludes the formal part of our discussion, and thank you for being with us today.